Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, fellow Sierra Leoneans and all interested viewers around the world. My name is Jesmed F Suma. I am a member of the National Grand Coalition Party in Sierra Leone. But I want to make it clear that the views that I'm expressing here do not represent those of the NGC party. But this will at least give you some idea of the way we think about the economy, or the members of the NGC party in general think about the economy in terms of how to fix it. And this discussion is going to be centered around the banking sector. Problems relating to the banking sector that is affecting our economy as a whole, and how leaders of yesteryears and the current myopic leadership of the Pauper government has failed to fix the economy of Sierra Leone and will never be able to fix the economy of Sierra Leone, because after 3 years of failure, there is nothing else they can do to turn it around within 2 years. Now, we all see how deplorable the economy is in terms of the inflation rate, in terms of currency shortages, in terms of a whole lot of different issues relating to the economy as a whole. Now, I want to start off by, first of all, identifying the problem so all of you understand what is it that is affecting the banking sector, and then begin to offer some of the basic, fundamental, simple solutions which the bank governor ought to be able to know how to solve. But in anything you do, especially in the area of public policy, if you do not have the sincerity of purpose and you have other special interest competing with that of national interest, you will never be able to achieve anything in public policy. Now, the issue about the banking sector squarely falls under the central bank, which is the major bank that controls all commercial banks and all financial institutions in the country. So they focus more on monetary policies. Even though the central bank is an organ of the government, but it ought to be independent of the government, because there are areas where the fiscal policy, which is controlled by the Ministry of Finance, will have to collaborate in terms of fighting certain issues within the economy, such as the inflation, unemployment, and other areas, and economic some investment to kind of spur investment within the economy. Unfortunately, since our bank governor took office 3 years ago, some of us raised concern about the fact that he has no single experience working in the banking sector. The banking sector is not like a 1, 2, 3 business or theoretical stuff. You need people with the in-depth experience. As much as I will try to tell you what I think needs to be done, if I'm given the opportunity to run the Central Bank of Sierra Leone, I will turn it down, because I know I'm not qualified to run it. I love the country so much that I will tell you that we need somebody far more better, and I can help to evaluate that person, because I know what is required of the person to run our central bank. And we do not lack of people that has the experience to run our central bank. There are tons of Sierra Leoneans that I know personally, within Sierra Leone and outside Sierra Leone, that have worked for financial institutions around the world, who are far 10 times qualified than somebody who has only been an economics lecturer in a university like our current central bank governor. When he took over, he knew that we had challenges and still have challenges of inflation. He knew that we had challenges and we still have challenges of unemployment. He knew we had challenges and we still have challenges about investment capital that pumped into the economy so we can build institutions, we can build businesses within the country. So instead of focusing on addressing the challenges that he faced as a bank governor by introducing the right monetary policies, his first failed attempt was to auction the Sierra Leone dollar, meaning that going into a reserve, taking from that reserve and sell it to any Jack and Jill that wants to buy it. To him, that is his own best way of bringing down the value of the dollar as against the Leones. Even a market woman in Kinjimi market in Sierra Leone will tell you that that is a flawed economic policy that is not sustainable. I'll give you reasons why. Because when we go out to take loans from foreign investors, when we go out to take loans from foreign businesses or foreign institutions, some of the indicators they look at is the level of our foreign reserve as against the annual demand that we get for satisfying those who import goods and services. And considering an economy like Sierra Leone that is heavily dependent on imported goods and services, you are definitely expected to have a minimum of 3, 4 to 5 month reserve to cover those demands. And over and above that, we have a government that have an insatiable demand for the foreign currency because the president flies all over the place like a bird. And each time he flies out of the country, they just go to the central bank and dish out as many dollars as they can have and take out of the country for them. Now, when you have an economy with all of those challenges, and you say the only way you can reduce the rate of the dollars is to auction the little reserve that we have. Obviously, as we all saw the effect of that, it was very limited. The impact was very limited. All of a sudden, we started having the inflation rate started increasing. They took up power when the leones was about 7,600 leones to $1. Today, as I speak, is over 11,500 leones to $1. Now, is that a good policy? Obviously, it is not a good policy because the results indicate otherwise. Now,
quick question.
Yes.
What was his objective to flood the market? There was shortage of dollar, or so by him flooding the market, he thought that.
His reason apparently for flooding the market is because there is this dichotomy between supply and demand in any goods and services. So in the case of foreign currency, when the demand for the dollar is higher than the supply of the dollar, the price of the dollar goes up. So in his mind, if I float the dollar out into the market, the price of the dollar will go down. But how long are you going to be able to sustain that? That's the problem. And he knew that that was not sustainable. So that failed. Now, the reason why I had to come on television and try to explain to the people of Sierra Leone is because of the recent development when he himself went to the House of Parliament. I'm talking about the bank governor himself, and cried out to the parliamentarians that he's been struggling to fix the economy. But there are people within the country that are working against his interest. And to help, because the banks are running out of loans, the local currency. He said the banks are running out of the local currency. His reason, his excuse that he gave to the House of Parliament was that because there are businesses within the country that are hoarding the leones. So the banks are running out of leones. So he kept printing more leones and pouring into the economy, increasing the money supply, exacerbating the problem. Is that a serious policy? And then that was not enough. That didn't solve the problem. So what did he do? He said he had to now use our foreign reserve month by month, selling out $68 million. He mistakenly said bribe. I know he didn't mean bribe. He didn't bribe them, because I want to be fair and objective. He used the word bribe. We had to bribe these business people to bring more loans back into the bank. But he didn't actually mean bribe. He was just trying to, blow out the seriousness. He wanted to express the seriousness of the issue. It's not a matter of bribe. He didn't bribe. So I want to take out the word bribe. He didn't bribe anybody. But what the bank governor was trying to explain was that in his own mind, the only way he can get monies back into the bank is by enticing those who have money in their houses to buy dollars through the bank so that those money can come back into the bank. He said he kept doing that 1 month, 2 months, every year, every month, and so on and so forth, and pumping out $68 million. $68 million of hard-earned Sierra Leonean foreign reserve is being dumped into the hands of business people. I mean, this is not tied to people that wants to import or whatever, or no restriction. It's just a matter of you bringing your loans back. They give you dollars. So now let's look at those two economic policies steps that I don't know even how you can call that any serious economic policy. Even a student in economics in Frobe College will not consider that to be a serious economic policy. But let's consider those two steps. One, he tried to bring down the price of dollar. What he did was to dump the dollar out into the market.
Flood the market.
Flood the market with dollars, draining our foreign reserve. Now he's using that same method to encourage businesses to bring money back into the banking sector. Same method by dumping $68 million. So it gave me the reason to think. One, the fact that this bank governor has no experience in the banking sector. He is now at the masses of the banking cabal that exists within the economy. And unfortunately in Sierra Leone, most of the banks are foreign-owned banks. So they don't have the national interest towards the economy of Sierra Leone as other Sierra Leoneans may have. Our banking sector is dominated by foreign banks. Their ultimate goal is to milk as much money out of the system as possible. So if they tell the bank governor that, especially knowing that the bank governor has no clue of what he's doing, they can tell the bank governor, all you need to do, dump more dollars to us and we'll give you more loans. Hey, this is the bank governor who has ultimate control of the monetary policy in the country, has ultimate control of how money flows in and out of the banking sector, and he has no better economic policy in terms of encouraging, increasing the cash deposit within the banks is by listening to mafia bank managers whose ultimate interest is to siphon that 68 million out of the country by saying that, oh, we don't have loans in our bank, so we can't give loans out. People coming to demand for the whatever, they cannot give them. Some of them may have trillions of loans in their vault, but the bank governor has no clue about it. But they tell the bank governor the only way you can get the loans back into the bank, dump 68 million to us. So we are at the mercy.
When you say he dumps the
68 million.
So how did he do that? Like to the banks? Or?
Yeah, like for instance, let's say the bank says, I'm running out of loans. The only way I can bring loans is you, bank governor, giving me 68 million, and I will sell it to those who have loans, and they will bring it back their loans into the bank. Oh, okay. So that's what it does. And guess what? So the moment he dumped the 68 million, that 68 million flights out of the country. Because those banks, because they are foreign banks, their interest is to convert their profit into dollars and siphon it out. So they have a bank governor who has no clue of what he's doing. So all they do, they give him advice. It's supposed to be the bank governor dictating to the commercial banks. But in our situation, because of the inexperience of the central bank governor, he's the one taking instructions from the commercial banks at the expense of our economy. Now, fellow Sierra Leoneans, I want you to listen to me and let's go over the processes as I explain why the banks are running out of cash, so you get a clear understanding why.
So if you were in the position of the
central bank governor,
what will you do?
In terms of, well, let me explain the problem first. I'm going to come to the solution.
Okay.
Good. Now, one of the problem is the fact that very few people, be it business or individuals, are reserving money, having bank accounts. When you have a very low ratio of bank account holders in your country, you're obviously going to have very low amount of cash within the banking sector. Now, in addition to those who have accounts, there are very few of them have savings accounts. And the banks only have cash to give out as loans or to meet the demand for those who have deposit accounts if they have the cash available in their vault. The central bank has the ultimate power to dictate how much money goes into the commercial banks, which they in turn determine how much money goes out to the public. But the same central bank, because of the interest of the economy, cannot just give out, dish out money and send as money as the demand comes, they print out money and give it out, because that increases inflation, drops the value of the leones. So they set limitations as to how much commercial banks can have. And they use that through some monetary policies that dictate the interest rates. Not only in terms of the interest rate, how much they can get the loans from the banks, but also the interest rate in terms of how much reserve the commercial banks can have in the central bank. So we set a certain percentage. Let's say a bank has $100 billion, 100 billion loans, sorry. The central bank can say, as part of its monetary policies, to reduce the money supply, you will say, I want you to increase your reserve at the central bank by 35% or 40%. That means 35 billion. Even though the commercial bank has 100 billion, 35 billion will be the central bank. If they want to increase the supply, they can reduce the reserve so the commercial banks can have more money. But what is happening in Sierra Leone, that process could not work because the central bank kept reducing the reserve level. You understand? The commercial banks keep giving out more of their money, but the money keeps going out and not coming back. And I will explain why. I've explained one reason. Because we don't have enough people having bank accounts. Reason number two. So
with the banking accounts, I think because the way our economy is set up, like most people are doing small business.
Mm-hmm.
They don't keep the money in their bank.
Mm-hmm.
They keep the money in their homes.
Mm-hmm.
So could that be one of the reasons why there is no...
Yeah, because our economy is mostly cash-based. Okay. You understand? We don't have electronics transaction stuff, very few limited ones. And, you know, the very few that have bank accounts, they don't have savings account. I will explain the reason why. You understand? And then the other reason is because there not seem to be any restriction as to the amount of cash you can withdraw from the bank. Currently. Okay. Even if there is restriction, it's not being enforced. You understand? There are so many, even Ghana, next door, Ethiopia, even as early as 2 weeks ago, Ethiopia imposed a policy that restricts individuals of holding cash, businesses or individuals, no more than $43,000 worth of cash you cannot have with you in anywhere in Ethiopia. If you have more than that, you will be prosecuted. The rest has to go into the bank. So if you don't have a bank account, you'll be forced to open a bank account if you have more than $43,000 worth of Ethiopian currencies. So all central banks around the world have those restrictions, including the US. You understand? In fact, in the US, there's a certain transaction level, be it cash or electronic. If you reach a certain threshold, the banks are mandated to report to the financial agency, federal financial agency that monitors that.
I think anything from individual, anything above 10,000.
Yeah, anything above 10,000. You understand? So those restrictions are in place for a reason. You understand? So now, the most important, the most hurtful, the most annoying, let me put it this way, the most annoying problem with having a bank account in Sierra Leone that discourages the rest of us, the few of us that have bank account there, discourages us from even putting our money into a bank account as follows. When you have a bank account in Sierra Leone, every time you have a transaction from that bank account, let's say you issue a check and they cash that check, the bank, first of all, by having a bank account, you pay monthly banking fees to the bank. That is the same across the board, everywhere in the world.
Even if it's savings?
No, savings accounts is different. Okay. But most people are using demand-based account, checking account. So if you have a bank account, you will pay a fee for the bank holding your account. But over and above that, when you issue out a check, the bank will charge you 2 fees, maybe 3. The first one is transaction fees. In addition to your monthly fees, you pay transaction fee. In addition to that, you pay GST tax for every transaction.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And the third one, for people like us that deals with large volume of cash, because of the nature, the rudimentary nature of how businesses operate in Sierra Leone, in most cases you have to withdraw cash. You are required to bribe the bank tellers if you want your cash out. Last year, between November and January, I paid over $500 worth of expenses to just do transactions with my money, when you considered the GST tax, the transaction fees, and whatever. Now you tell me,
what is the GST tax?
That is the government tax, the same government tax, because what is happening, because our bank governor is oblivious of the role that he's supposed to play to fix the economy, the banks are now transferring the annual tax they ought to be paying on their profit on the average consumer. They included GST tax. Now, imagine you running a bank, an account in America here, for instance. Poor as I am, I'm not a rich man, I'm a poor man. And I have to pay over $500 on joint frivolous charges that I pay to the bank. Will that encourage me to even use that bank anymore?
No.
Exactly. So those are some of the problems. The bank governor has no clue and allowed those things to happen. Now, over and above that, if the bank governor does not introduce certain monetary policies to encourage what is called the credit market, this problem is going to continue. Let me give you an example. No economy survives without a vibrant credit market. You understand? Because the credit industry helps to vitalize the economy and gets it rolling and running and creates the business cycle that is necessary. And the banking sector is the vessel through which money flows in and out of the economy. Now, if you go for a loan in any bank, be it in Sierra Leone or outside Sierra Leone, there are 4 major costs that the bank have to think about that adds to that particular interest rate that you have to pay. Cost number 1 is called the financial cost. That is the opportunity cost of the bank investing that money, let's say $100,000 in loans, into another investment vehicle. What they ought to be generating from that, they will calculate that. If they say, if I give this man $100,000 worth of loans to do an investment, and if I know that I am going to, if I can invest this particular $100,000 in another area, I can, and 5% interest return on my investment without facing the risk I'm going to be facing with him, you put 5% as part of your interest. The next one is the default ratio. The default ratio is how long it will, how the risk the bank has to take in giving out the loan, and how many of those people that are receiving the loans are going to be able to pay on that loan. The higher the default ratio, the higher the interest rate that bank gives out to other people that actually pays for that default.
But now they ask for collateral, right?
I'm coming to that. I'm coming to collateral. So because of that, because of the default ratio in Sierra Leone is high on account of the failures of our central bank, the banks will have to add a higher percentage on the interest than they give to people. Because those who default are the ones that are creating the problem, and those who accept loans are the ones going to pay that liability. Now, the question is, why do we have high default ratio? There are several factors. When you give out loans, there is a covenant between you, the lender, and the borrower. And that covenant is an agreement that ought to be enforced. Because we have such unscrupulous legal system that drags its feet, and the cost of the legal process when people fail to default on their loans creates the risk higher for the banks. That increases the interest rate.
So there's no support system for the banking.
Well, those are all things that the government's supposed to provide to create the enabling environment. When you talk about enabling environment for an investment in an economy, those are some of the factors that are taken into consideration. Setting up the right legal system that is robust, quick, and scrupulous. Not the unscrupulous one, scrupulous, so that the banks, the lenders, and borrowers will have a fair judgment when issues are brought to them. Now, the longer it takes for the loan, in other words, a 5-year loan will attract a higher interest rate than a 1-year loan, because it expands the risk to 5 years as opposed to the risk in 1 year. You understand? Now, the next one is operational cost. The banks have to pay their tellers, they have to pay people, they have to pay their managers. All of that cost is factored in that adds to the interest rate. And the most damaging, or the most impact on the interest rate is the inflation rate. So if the inflation, for instance, is 10%, no bank or no lender will give you a loan that is lower than 10%. Because 10% means the value of the money will reduce by 10% every year. And if you are giving a loan out to somebody for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, obviously you don't want to risk losing the value of your money every year. 10% is coming out of it. So the banks will start off from the inflation rate, 10%. They put the default rate, they put operational cost, they put financial cost. So if you go to the bank and the bank asks you to pay 25%, 30% interest rate, they are not being unrealistic. It's dictated by the situation in the economy of the country.
Yeah, so
and the fact of the matter, because of the fact that we have a very weak legal system, and that is machinated by the political class within the system, makes it difficult for people to even trust that system. Now, let's come to the issue about collateral. In most cases, the banks will ask for collateral security based on the volume or the amount of the loan that is being issued. However, collateral securities can only be offered by those who, or in fact, only those who have bank accounts that can go to the bank and ask for loan. So if a majority of the population do not have bank account, so all of those 60 or 70% of the population that do not have bank account are outside the credit market.
So the first condition, you have to have a bank account.
Absolutely, because a bank will not give a loan to somebody they don't have as their customer. That doesn't make any logical sense. You don't come out from the street and say, come give me a loan. You have to have a bank account with them. Now, for those who have bank account, a majority of them cannot afford provide collateral security.
What are some of the items they ask for?
They usually ask for properties, real assets, real estate. For instance, a house. How many Sierra Leoneans can afford a $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 house? Very few. And then those who have farmland, that's another aspect we have to address in our economy. The undervaluation of our assets. There are wealthy people in the provinces because of the poor land tenure system, because of the lack of the fact that you cannot have a freehold land outside the western area. Most people are sitting on major wealth, but they cannot monetize their wealth on account of the bad legal system within the system. So as I tell you, my brothers, we have gone through this process for 60 years. And for 60 years, the situation is getting worse, from bad to worse. There was a time in the 70s when the leones was far more valuable than the dollars. I grew up in the days when 75 cents, our 75 cents is what you needed to get $1. So in other words, our leones was 25 cents more valuable than the US dollars. So, because of the failed leadership provided by these bad politicians over the years, by SLPP and APC, for 60 years, from 75 cents to $1, now we are giving 11,000, not 11 leones. So we are talking about 75 cents. Let's forget about 70. Let's say 1 leone. There was a time when it was 1 leone to $1. 1 leone to $1. That's how strong our economy was. Yeah. But because of these bad monetary policies, they have reduced our leones to 11,500 leones to $1. If you go to the black market today.
What is the rate to the pounds?
I don't know. That's yeah. I don't know. I don't want to give a misquoting. I've been dealing with dollars most of the time.
Obviously, it's going to be more.
Of course, it's going to be more. The pounds is far more valuable than the dollars. But now the question is, let's talk about solutions.
But before that, what do you think is going to be the future for the leone?
No, as long as we have the same...
If it continues in this trend.
No, this trend will definitely continue. It's not about if it continues. This trend is definitely going to continue if we have the same people running our economy. Sorry, guys, I've been sick for a week now, and I'm just trying to recover. Since yesterday, I'm feeling better. So if you see me coughing, please pardon me for that. But I didn't want to disappoint my audience. That's why I forced myself out today. Just so that, but for an entire week, I've not been able to go to work because I've been sick. So if you see me coughing, just pardon me for that. But now let me talk about the relationship between the central bank and the government. The objective of the central bank is to manage the monetary policy of the country. It's supposed to be independent of and of the central government. In other words, the president is not supposed to dictate to the central governor as to how much money he can withdraw from the central bank. And as we speak, our central bank has become a personal bank account of our president. From the past until now, all they do, they just call $100,000. They go to cash out, put in boxes, and take it out at the expense of the country.
Are they allowed to do that?
They're not allowed to do that. A good monetary policy, a good financial system, they're not allowed to do that. You understand? Mm-hmm. Because the government, the way they set up the banking sector, they have the central bank as the bank of the central government. You understand? Mm-hmm. When the central government collect taxes, when they have all the monies that they've collected, they bring it to the central bank. That's their bank account. When they have all loans and grants from other people from around the world, they bring it to the central bank. That's their bank. Now, if they want to take money to pay salaries, pay other stuff, they come back to the central bank and take it out. When they want to pay their foreign services abroad, everywhere, they come to the central bank and take it out. But the central bank also has obligation to maintain a certain reserve against the demand for foreign currencies, especially to run the economy for those who import goods and services, particularly for the importation of capital goods. Unfortunately, the majority of our economy is based on simple, basic consumer imported goods. consumer goods that can be produced in Sierra Leone, consumer goods that can be promoted in Sierra Leone. But because we have myopic leaders, instead of promoting the production of oil, which we can do locally, peanut oil, coconut oil, which is very valuable, palm oil.
Palm oil is very valuable.
Yes, these are all things that we have in Sierra Leone that can be produced in large quantity, but they are busy subsidizing businesses, giving them dollars to import canola oil. The only political party that can reverse that can reverse this trend after 60 years of failure is the NGC party. There is no two way about it. If you love Sierra Leone, you care about the future of Sierra Leone, your only option is the NGC party. If you decide that you're going to stick with SLPP or APC, the same thing that we have seen for 60 years is the same failures we're going to see for the next 10 or 15 years. May God forbid us. We're going to stand to make sure that doesn't happen. Now, I'm coming back. I want to come to the solution before you ask that question.
Before you go further, right? You know how a lot of people in belief say the only way you can have an effective change is to be part of those two parties. Like change from within those two, even though they are corrupt. In order for you to really have a large impact or large success to become, a president or otherwise, you have to be either APC or SLP.
That is not true. That is not true. Okay. And I'll tell you why that will never succeed. Because
can you change from within those
you parties? Cannot change from within. Okay. The corruption within those two parties is so endemic and entrenched that before you get to the leadership, you're already corrupted. Okay. If they wake up St. John Paul II, they wake him up from the dead. They say, come fix Sierra Leone. If he is to fix Sierra Leone, he wants to lead Sierra Leone as SLPP. By the time he gets the leadership of SLPP, he's already corrupted. The same thing with APC. Nobody will ever succeed to fix Sierra Leone that decides to do so by running through any of those two corrupt parties that have ruined the economy for 60 years.
So why do you think it's
so hard? Why do I think it's so hard? Because there are people, first of all, the internal structures. I don't want to deviate from the economy, but since you're asking these questions, I will have to answer them. But I want to focus on the economy. But since you're asking these political questions, let me answer them. Because the corruption is so endemic within the system. The internal structures of the political parties themselves is not democratic. The internal structures of the political parties themselves are not accountable to their members. Okay. The internal structures of the political parties is corrupt from the core. You understand? And there is nobody to control them. The institutions set up to control the political parties to be democratic and fair to their members, to their followers. Those institutions are controlled by the central government. They are used as a tool to machinate and control the opposition parties. Okay. It's only this time, this is the first time in the history of Sierra Leone, that Sierra Leone is now seeing a strong opposition to a ruling government. Because of why? The National Grand Coalition is the only political party that was able to break up that grip that the central government always gets over these institutions. For instance, the central government controls PPRC. PPRC is supposed to be independent, be fair across the board over all political parties. But PPRC is used as a tool to suppress. PPRC is the Political Party Registration Commission. You understand? Responsible for regulating political parties, their activities, ensuring that they do things democratically and fair to their members, so that when the internal structures of political party are democratic, then they will be able to come up with a democratic system of providing leadership for the nation. Unfortunately, the PPRC is corrupt. PPRC is machinated and controlled by any ruling party. The same thing happened with the previous ruling party. The same thing is happening with this ruling party. The only time Sierra Leone has ever gotten an opposition to a ruling government, this is the very first time in the history, in my own lifetime, because of the National Grand Coalition. Because the National Grand Coalition decided to break up. It says we broke up from these two institutions to set up a system that will straighten up the country. And because we've broken up, we're not going to compromise. Nobody's going to give us brown envelope. We're not going to whatever. So the system is working, but the challenges are there. That's why we need folks. Those of you listening to me right now, We cannot do it on our own. Come and join us. So let's fix the country. Now we have COP, which is the coalition of progressive political parties. A breakaway from what is called APA, which is All Political Party Association, because that's what the ruling party used to tell the international community, oh, afterwards the opposition, they are supporting us. Because APA, what they do, they control the leadership of APA. And APA does not listen to their members anymore once they've got elected. So because the central the ruling government bribes them, so they dance to the ruling government. They fly them all over the place. Whenever they send opposition to come to a conference, they send APA people there. But NGC says this time, we are not going to settle for it. Our interest is to protect the democratic institution of our nation. And we're going to break away from APA, and luckily the other political parties follow suit. So out of 17 political parties, 13 or 14 are with COP. COP is the biggest, most strongest, most forcible opposition institution in Sierra Leone today. Okay. So they're feeling the heat. We've seen the result that happened. That's how we need, folks. If you are a Sierra Leonean, you're running business, you're a bona fide Sierra Leonean, you love your country, this is your time to join the National Grand Coalition. Join us so that we'll fix the economy of our country. Let's come to solutions. Let's take out politics for now. Let's form the economy.
Economy, yeah.
Yes. Now, what is the solution?
Solution to
the fact that the banks do not have enough cash, which the central bank governor says the businesses are hoarding the cash, and his only policy, this entire dunya, the entire monetary policy in his own head, is to dump our dollars to those businesses.
So how is he going to recover those dollars back?
What do you mean recover? He's not going to recover them. That's why our foreign reserve is always drained out. Because they are just dishing it out frivolously to their co-ops. The banks, the cabal that controls the economy, dictate to the central governor. Because they have people in businesses that want these dollars. And when our people have worked hard, generated dollars for our economy, sold our foreign natural resources, those dollars that come into the central bank, instead of using some of those monies to sustain the strength of our economy, investing into the economy, they take it, they dump it to their cronies, and they siphon it out of the country. Is that the way to run an economy? The only way you can fix that is for you to join the National Grand Coalition and put your Sierra Leone interest at heart first, above everything, and join us who will move that country forward. Let's come to solution again. In terms of solutions, as follows. I've explained some of the problems, right? Now, if you are an individual, you know that you have no restriction as to, let me go to the second one first. I'll come to this one. Let's say if you're an individual, you put your money into the bank. Let's say 100 million leones. That money stays in the bank. 1 year, the value will reduce by 10%.
So you're losing money.
You're losing your money.
Besides
so because
inflation,
that is discouraging you to put your money into the bank. Now, one way to address that is for the central government to control inflation. But even if the central government controls inflation, it's still not going to solve the problem. Okay? There are ways to solve the problem. Let me go back to the one I wanted to talk about. The fact that the central bank is not enforcing the limitations in terms of the amount of cash that people can withdraw from at any given time is because it feeds into the corruption that permeates itself within the system. I'll give you an example. If somebody goes for a contract from the Ministry of Finance and they're giving the contract, they said, oh, before this, I give you this contract, you must give us a commission of 10%. The $100,000 contract, $100,000 contract, you must pay a 10% commission. And that 10% commission, let me say $1 million contract, the government officer will insist on a percentage as their commission before they give you the contract. That means the contract will have to be inflated, first of all. Maybe a $800,000 or $700,000 contract. That is worth $700,000. They will inflate it to $1 million
to cover the commission.
To cover the commission at the expense of the poor people in Sierra Leone. The only political party they can change, that's the NGC party. Now, when the person now comes to take the contract of $1 million, he needs to bring forth the 10% first. That 10% cannot be paid with check. It cannot be paid with electronic transfer, because that corrupt individual within the government system will not want to see the money transferred from such business person's account into his account. So what will that business person do? They will go to the bank and withdraw $100,000 worth of leones. That is billions of leones. You understand? So withdraw those billions of leones out, cash, put it in boxes, and take it out to the corrupt person. That is the one fundamental reason why the central bank is not imposing restrictions as to how much money people can withdraw from the bank at a given time.
Does that money goes to the bank?
No, that money does not go to the bank. The individual, let me say I'm the businessman A, wants to go get a contract from a government officer number one in the Ministry of Finance. The government officer says, I have this $1 million contract for you, but my commission is 10%. That 10% is $100,000. But because I'm a government officer, you cannot pay that into my account. You cannot give me a check. You cannot do it electronically.
So people cannot trace the transaction.
So I don't want people to trace the transaction. So the businessman A will now go to the bank in his own account and drain out the cash from his bank account, put it in boxes to give to that government officer. So the banks run out of cash. The central bank has the authority to impose a limit as to how much loans you can withdraw at any given time from the bank. If they do have that, policy, they're not enforcing it. They're not enforcing it because that is the way it fits the corruption within the system.
So who monitors the central bank? Who do they answer to?
The central bank is controlled by the bank governor. That is why you need to have the right type of bank governor, because nobody else monitors him.
Oh, he doesn't report to no one.
Yeah, he only reports to House of Parliament.
Okay.
Yes. You see the logic? So the central bank controls the commercial banks. So if the central bank imposes a limit, that person that's supposed to give that bribe will not be able to come to a commercial bank and withdraw $100 billion or $11-12 billion loans from the loans. You understand? Mm-hmm. The only political party that will put an end to such corruption is the National Grand Coalition. Because we will not tolerate people in our ministry that take bribe commissions for businesses. All that money will be invested into the lives of our people. So the central bank governor has that authority to impose those rules so that money stays into the bank account. But he will not do it because it will be difficult for them to practice their corrupt practices that takes place within the system. 2, if banks are making profit and paying taxes on those profits, why should the central bank allow those banks to pass on those GST taxes for every transaction? This is ridiculous.
But why would the government tax people
for transaction?
For transactions.
Yes, and they allow the banks to charge transaction fees. They allow the bank to charge GST. I think they've tried because of the unpopularity of that stupidity. I don't know if they've removed it now. But up to the last time, I was operating, withdrawing, putting money into the account, those charges were being imposed. You understand?
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Good. Well, the worst of all is this one. Let me explain this. I want everybody to listen to this. If you have a customer, the banks will not allow you to write a check more than 100 million leones. Are you listening to me carefully? If somebody has to pay you money in Sierra Leone today that is above 100 million leones, the only way they can do that is by cashing it out and giving you the cash. Do you hear me well? This is a fact. It happened to me.
So they cannot issue a check.
You cannot issue a check 100 million and above. The banks will tell you our system is not set up to accept recording of transactions of money transferred beyond 100 million leones.
You mean the
I am going through
system?
That. Huh?
The computer system or
whatever, the banking system, the way they operate within the system, because of what the central bank imposed on them. So the question is, how do people transfer money beyond 100 million leones? You will have to do wire transfer. And this is what happens in our banking sector, to do wire transfer locally. If you want to transfer 100 million, 200 million, 300 million leones into somebody's account, both are local banks within Sierra Leone. That money has to go wired outside Sierra Leone and diverted back into Sierra Leone, and then you will end up paying over $100.
Oh.
Fees. The fees. I have evidence to show it because it happened to me. The fees. Now the central bank governor has the authority to fix that. Doesn't even make sense to anybody.
So what are the parliamentarians doing? Are they not the ones who are supposed to...
Let's don't go into politics. I want to focus on the economy. When we come to politics, if you get me into politics, my friend, I will not be able to come back to this, because I want people to understand what is happening with our economy so that we know how to fix it. So, as I'm telling you, fellow Sierra Leoneans, this is the problem our businesses are going through in Sierra Leone, which is making it difficult for them to open bank accounts in our country, because it's expensive to have a bank account. It's expensive to do transactions in our banks because of the bad monetary policies of the central bank. Now let's come to the issue about giving out loans again. Now I've just touched on the challenges people are facing when they go for loans from the bank. Now, when you go for a loan from the bank and you have to pay 20-25% interest rate, there is no way in your rightful mind you will want to go for a loan that will last for 5 years or 6 years or more. So which means anybody wants to build a factory in Sierra Leone, you cannot rely on the banks to give you loan, because there is no way you'll be able to pay the interest rate. No way, absolutely. Because by the time your factory is built, by the time it begins to produce, by the time you begin to make sales and get returns on your investment, that has taken maybe 2 years or 3 years. So if my fellow Sierra Leoneans, if you want to know why we are not building factories in our country, it's because of the failures of the central bank, the failures of the monetary policy.
Because you need a lot of money.
You need a lot of money to do that. You understand? So how do you solve a problem like that? Now, you know, in the field of economics, it's just like you training a mechanic. Understand? Mm-hmm. It gives you opportunities to learn all the tools that are available to you. Now, the type of tool that you use to fix the economy varies from one economy to another. You cannot say because Bangladesh is poor, like Sierra Leone is poor, the same monetary policy or economic policies you use to fix Bangladesh, you bring that same tool to fix Sierra Leone. There are cultural differences. There are so many differences between the economy of Bangladesh and Sierra Leone that those tools may not work effectively in Sierra Leone. And those are some of the problems we're having with our monetary policies as regards those imposed by the World Bank and IMF, because they use the same tool from one country to the other, because the objective of those tools is to satisfy the interests of the central bank, of the banks. So similarly, when it comes to fixing the economy of Sierra Leone in particular, or any economy, you have to use the right tools. Sometimes you use conventional or unconventional approaches. Now, with respect to the issue of interest rate for the construction of factories and building businesses that will create jobs for our people, the central bank has a major role to play. If the central bank says we are creating a special fund, the special interest rate that is capped by the central bank, similar to what they do with the stimulus. I'm going to touch on the stimulus. On the stimulus, the central bank dish out 500 billion leones to the commercial banks and create a cap of 2 or 3% for the commercial banks and create a limit of another 3 or 4% for the loans that they give out. So the people receiving the loan will receive it at an interest no more than 7%. You understand? Similar policies can be implemented with respect to specific sectors of the economy. If you want to develop agriculture, for instance, considering the fact that individuals and businesses will not be able to sustain a loan taken from the bank at 20-25%, you can come up with a special fund. He says, I'm allocating $100 million, $200 million, $300 million, or $500 million for the next 5 years to give out to businesses that wants to take loan from the banks to invest in these specific areas of sectors in the economy. And the interest rate will be capped at a certain level and will give that money to the commercial banks at 2 or 3%, and the commercial banks should not exceed another additional 4%. So that fights that 25%, as long as that money is directed to productive sectors of the economy. Because you will not be able to fight inflation if you don't have an economy that produces goods and services. You understand? That's the best way to fight inflation. So you can even do what is called deficit financing. You can even take loans from the World Bank and IMF to actually target specific sectors of the economy, giving out big loans to businesses to open these factories. And you have a mechanism to monitor them. Because what businesses do too, they use their connections within government and go siphon some of these loans and then disappear with them. Because the folks in governments, for those of you who are wary about going into politics, everything in the country is controlled by the politics. Even these policies I'm talking about. If you have corrupt individuals within the central bank who bring unscrupulous people to come take 50 million or 5 million, 10 million, 15 million from those particular special funds the central bank may provide to invest in agriculture, invest in the building of food processing plant. For instance, if the bank says want to produce palm oil, want to produce coconut oil, want to produce peanut oil. If you have a 5-year plan to produce peanut oil and stuff like that, you give us your business plan, we can give you a loan at a cap, a limited interest rate that you can do, and you can dish it out from time to time. And we have a plan. I personally have written a plan on this in terms of agriculture that gives every business a maximum of $200,000, but giving you $50,000 revolving loan. So you have a maximum of $200,000, but we'll give you $50,000 first. You produce that, you meet the requirements and conditions we meet, you're automatically entitled to another $50,000. As you pay, you have $50,000. So every business will be allocated based on the type of investment sectors that will define, that will ask you to invest in. So the money is there. All you do, bring your ingenuity, put your skills together, produce the stuff, we'll provide the money, and you pay the fund. And part of the conditions I will impose, as you ask me if I'm this, whatever, I said there are three simple conditions. One, you pay back the loan. You understand? Based on the
loan with an interest,
based on the low interest, because we're going to give you low interest. If the banks are giving you 25% and we come up with a mechanism where you pay 7%, which one do you go to? 7%, right? Mm-hmm. The second one, you make sure you create jobs. You understand? Mm-hmm. The third one, you make sure you pay your taxes. Those are the only three conditions I will ask of any business. In fact, if I have control of our financial sectors, if we are giving out contracts to any business, those are the 3 fundamental conditions I'm going to put forward. Actually, 4.
Awesome. I have a comment.
The first one will be, you will be based on the average number of taxes you've paid within the past 10 years. If we accumulate all your taxes you've paid within the past 10 years, the contract that you're going to go take, it cannot be more than 100 times, 10 times, 100 times that, or 10 times that. It cannot be more than 10 times that. Let's say if all your taxes you've paid is $100,000 in 10 years, you will not qualify for any loan more than $1 million. So what does that do? It will encourage businesses to pay taxes because it's going to be a condition for them to get contracts from government. Condition number 2, we will base it on the ratio, the number of Sierra Leoneans you have employed in your business. So we'll look at your tax payment for the past 10 years, the number of Sierra Leoneans that you have paid, you understand, that you have hired in your business, and then we check whether you're capable of control for meeting of those contracts. So you now see, you don't go to businesses that have paper flying like the politicians do. When they have contract, they go call their brother, hey, go register that business. Quick. Come, there is a $100,000 contract here. They can give you. They play that corruption and bring it. But if you have condition like that, a brother does not know how a bee from a bull's foot, who cannot even lift a peanut, convert 1 cent to 2 cents, will not come with a paper and say, I have this business, come give me the contract. Because the condition is that you have to tell us your taxes that you've paid over the past number of 5 to 10 years. If it's 2 years, we'll calculate it by 2 years. 3 years, calculate it by 3 years. So you will only be qualified based on the amount of tax you've paid over a certain period of time multiplied by 10.
You have to have some history.
You have to have some history.
So I got a comment from Boy Jalo Jamboria.
Yeah, what is his comment? Make the system electronic. Of course, that's part what my brother is keep interrupting me. The electronic cash flow. Now, the challenge with that is, in fact, the central bank has all the opportunities of making that happen. In fact, I give credit to Rokel Commercial Bank. Rokel Commercial Bank has a very robust mobile banking network system. And the central bank need to be able to support the banking sector with the right infrastructure. This includes the IT infrastructure, the app, the applications, the machinery, the system, in collaboration. There are certain restrictions with our money transfer mechanism in Sierra Leone because of this worry about money laundering, the worry about terrorism transfer. We need a credible government that will lift up all those hurdles over our economy in Sierra Leone today. That is why when you want to transfer money from one account to another account, if we want to be part of the world economy, they will have to force us to send that money out of Sierra Leone and bring it back to Sierra Leone because of the distrust that they have in the way we operate our banking sector. The only political party that will bring that credibility back is the National Grand Coalition. Because when you have unscrupulous people running the country, the world economy know, World Bank know, IMF know, the American government know, UK government, European unions know. They know these people are corrupt. They know they are all part and parcel of the system. They know the people that they rub bodies with. We see them flying to Lebanon and Turkey. The people raise flags. Those are red flags that for the international community, that these people are rubbing shoulders with places that we have red flags on. So obviously the entire Sierra Leone economy will be bungled up within that same image. So the transaction of money flowing in and out of the economy will be controlled by the international community. Why will a commercial bank want to transfer money into Rokel Bank? These are all local banks. And that money has to fly out of Sierra Leone and come back to Sierra Leone? What kind of nonsense is that?
Another comment.
What's another comment?
Apani Kamara.
So all is speculation, but the bank manager used the word bribe. He may have done it in a way that is more of a bribe than what you're implying. Well, you see, honestly speaking, he used the word bribe. But I really want to assume, I give him the benefit of the doubt, not to think that he actually meant bribe. He didn't mean bribe. Honestly speaking, I'm sure he didn't mean bribe. He just misspoke. But he may be right because of the way the system is happening. You understand? But as I said, we have a system wherein Instead of the central bank control the commercial banks, you have a cabal of commercial bankers that controls the central bank governor because the central bank governor has no clue. That is why when you have a Bonfou president, appoint Bonfou people, and they implement Bonfou policies. The only political party, and let me tell you guys again, the only political party that can change that is the National Grand Coalition. If you want to fix the Sierra Leone economy, go to the National Grand Coalition. Join us. Join us. We cannot do it alone. The credit industry and real income wages system is what keeps consumption going, and consumption instigates production, supply, and all other economic change. You're absolutely right. Who said that? Oh, boy, Jalo. Yes, he's absolutely right. And that is why I'm insisting on the credit industry. Now, let's touch on the credit industry. What is it that I would recommend how to fix the credit industry? And I want you guys to listen to this carefully. Now, part of the challenges we have with our credit industry is the fact that we don't have any system to track people. We don't have any system to rate their credibility. We don't have a system to enforce the covenant of the agreement. If I have my way, especially if the NGC party wins an election, we are going to set special commercial courts in every district, specifically enforcing covenant. 2, we are going to make sure we have a written standard agreement between a loan person, a person giving a loan, and a person receiving a loan, on the condition that both parties have a bank account. You understand? That will set in the Ministry of Finance website that you can go and download, because most of them are illiterate. Over 65 to 70% of our people are illiterate. So we have in it a system that will help them to protect themselves. You understand? It says if you want to give somebody a loan, the government has made it easier for you. Go download this paper, fill it up, and let him sign. You sign. You take that paper, you go register it to the credit bureau. Set up a specific credit bureau. So every paper that will be downloaded has a serial number. You understand? So Pasori in Makeni, that is giving a loan to Mami in Bond, they will come to an agreement. Pasori go to the website, download the paper, write it down. Bam. You go to the credit bureau government is set, register it. This agreement number is registered between myself and this. These are the terms of the agreement. We have agreed to it. Bam. Pasori will not sit back. If Mami fail to fulfill the terms of the agreement, you go back to the credit bureau agency. You say, this is what happens. Oh, I need paper to go to the police. That is government instruction, not to the police to go arrest Mami. But what is happening now, if Pasori give a loan to Mami, and Mami, takes the loan, Mami, default on the loan, Mami, will take some of that loan. When Paichoni goes to the police to go report, Mami, will take some of that loan and pay the police, and the police will begin to dali Pasori. Pasori will keep going back and forth until he gives up. Now, the next person that comes to Pasori, come give me 2 million leons loan. Will Pasori give them? No. So you have to straighten the police system, the legal system. The entire system is corrupt until we have a system of government that will fix that corrupt system that is entrenched in every sector of government. If the head of police is corrupt, every branch of the police department will be corrupt. If the head of the judiciary is corrupt, every system within the judiciary will be corrupt. If the president is corrupt, as we have now, every organ of government will be corrupt. If the speaker of parliament is corrupt, every individual within the house of parliament is vulnerable to being corrupt.
I got a disagreement comment.
It will never be the same, and NGC will never be a majority party. That is a political question. I'm not going to answer that. He is in the dream world. Let me just touch on it for a little bit. In life, you will not achieve success if you don't believe in your goals. You understand? If you don't believe in your conviction. They are seeing the strength of APs and SLPP and weighing that against the NGC. That's why he's having that dream. You understand? But guess what? If Mandela was afraid of the might of the apartheid government, he will never have succeeded in freeing South Africa from independence.
Well, I get married on your side.
If, on the other hand, that's good, thank you. If, on the other hand, Indira Gandhi of India was afraid of the mighty British Empire, there was no way India would have gotten an independence the time they got it. So NGC, we are not afraid of the entrenched might of the APC and SLPP. We will challenge them and defeat them. Makolo, the same way Mandela succeeded in South Africa, the same way Indira Gandhi succeeded in India, is the same way NGC will succeed. And the good thing about us, we have a product to sell, and that is Dr. Kande Kole Yumkela, a man with an impeccable record. You understand? Has a proven record of delivering and building institutions. The world over admire him. You understand? It's only the fools in Sierra Leone that do not see his worth, but we see his worth. And let me end by this way. When Christ was preaching his message, the entire Jerusalem and the entire world, only 12 disciples believed in him. Today, there is no corner in the world where Christianity is not preached. The same happens with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When he was preaching his message of the truth, the message of truth, he had only a few disciples. The mighty strength of the rulers of Mecca at that time was so powerful. But guess what? The truth lasted. Similarly, inside Sierra Leone, the truth that we speak in NGC, the truth about the impact NGC can do in Sierra Leone and the value and the belief we have in Dr. Kande Kole Yumkela will set the entire Sierra Leone free. So anybody that doubts that, doubts his own death.
But so how will they move from the last performance to winning an election, presidential election?
Hey, well, a political question they ask so now. I'll finish this discussion. I'll come to the solutions of the monetary policies.
Mr. Boy say if we talk Rio.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's talk because it's a financial issue. We really concern more of the general economy in America. They talk English, but I've been asked to speak in Creole, our local lingua, so that because of the 60 years of failures of our leaders, when places like Zimbabwe have 60 to 70% literacy rate, we have 30 to 35% literacy rate. 30. Wow. So 65% to 70% of our people cannot read and write English. It's pathetic. You see, Bajala is saying that the Leone's limit should be in accordance with the international limit of $10,000. And I agree with that. But in Sierra Leone, no. And the reason why it is no is because the central bank knows that will hinder them from practicing corruption in the way they transfer money in and out of the economy.
So they intentionally set that limit because they know people are going to need more.
Well, you know, they didn't set limit. That's the point I'm saying. Oh, no. What he's saying that they should set limit. But what we have in Sierra Leone, they don't have limits. You can go to Sierra Leone today and withdraw 200 million loans. You can go to any bank in Sierra Leone today if you have the money and withdraw 200 million loans. Nobody's going to stop you.
But yet you can't issue a payment.
You can't issue a check more than 100 million loans. You have to do wire transfer. And if you do wire transfer, it's going to cost you an arm and leg. Now, because of the red flag that is hanging over our economy in Sierra Leone, based on the type of leadership that we have, the people that they interact with, the places that they visit, creates that international red flag over our economy. And that's why that restriction is there.
So Binta Kaba is saying that we need vetted people. So she's assuming that Yumkela is not vetted.
You say Yumkela is not vetted?
As a president of Sierra Leone.
Well, I don't understand what she meant about vetting. They say, well, sometimes we need to look for vetted evidence that we can use to guide us to fix our economy. We don't try grassroots for years. You know, work. That's why he's saying you didn't talk about Yumkela. Man, you twisted her question. I was surprised. Yes, she's right. She's absolutely right. We needed vetted people. For instance, as I said earlier, if I'm asked to run the Central Bank of Sierra Leone right now, I will not accept. because I know I'm not qualified to run it. I know the kind of technicality involved. But if you ask me to identify people, man, I know tons of Sierra Leoneans. As I speak right now, three names are lingering over my head right now. Who can run? One is working for the IMF right now. The other one has worked for the ADB Bank, has worked for Sierra Leone government. Central Bank has resigned and retired, sitting down. If we want to fix our economy, the government appoint that person to run the central bank. You give him 2 years, by the third year, the Sierra Leone economy will begin to have a turnaround.
So we can actually see the problem as we speak, because the bank governor, maybe they didn't vet him well.
Well, let me tell you the way our politicians appoint bank governors. As I said, the bank governors are supposed to be technocrats that understands how the economy works, that has an in-depth knowledge of how the banking sector works. The only vetted and very experienced bank governor we've ever had in our country in the past is S.L. Bangura. And the reason why Seka Stephen assassinated him is because as the same thing that is happening now, he stood up to Seka Stephen when Seka Stephen demanded for foreign reserves to go into his pocket when he wants to travel. He says, no, that's not good for the economy, pa. That's not what I'm here. Seka Stephen says, hey, but that's my account. No, that's not your account. This is the people's bank. This is the people's account. I'm not going to dish out my foreign currencies to go give you out so you can go fly all over the place. So what did he do? He assassinated him.
Yeah, I remember that.
You understand? So since then, all bank governors have been stooges to the president. And the same thing is happening when Mada Bio wants to fly today. He just needs to sit down and take the charter plane, 100 million leones. Bank governor pay that 100 million leones, bam. $100 million, bang. Or $10 million, bang. They take it, put money in the boxes and fly out. And they say the economy. They want to go blame business people. Business people that are managing to hold the economy together. You want to go blame them for the failure of the economy? You blame your failures of your monetary policies.
Exactly. So we got a praise from Eric Johnson. Good lectures, bro.
Thank you. Bring in the questions. So let's talk about solutions. You keep diverting me into politics.
Well, I want to get rid of the comment and then we move.
No, the comment I can accept the comment on the whatever. They say KKY will be good, better president if voted for. Absolutely, there is no question about that. So now let's come to the issue about solutions. So I've talked about one solution, right? So you put a cap of how much money people withdraw from the bank, right? Then if you want to encourage investment, you put some investment fund. You put special interest for those people investing in specific sectors of the economy, right? Now, in terms of the majority of the population that do not have bank account into the account, after you put a cap on how much people can withdraw, also put a cap of how much money somebody can have with them at any given point. Like Ethiopia did 2 or 3 weeks ago. No more than $43,000 worth of Ethiopian currency you can have with you at any given point. If police see you having that tons of cash, they will arrest you and you might forfeit your money. We need that same type of law in Sierra Leone. First of all, but before you do that, you must create the enabling environment for people to have reason to come to the bank. Take off the transaction fees, take off the GST tax, take off all those different. They are paying bank charges every month anyway.
Exactly.
So why do they have to go pay all these frivolous taxes? That's because our economy is dominated by foreign banks, and these foreign banks' ultimate interest is to fly out the money out of our country. That is why they can fool our bank governor, tell our bank governor the only way we can have money into our account is for you to give us $68 million. They give them $68 million, they send it out, they say, oh, bank governor, the monies are back, the monies are back. Then after 1 month, 2 months, hey, bank governor, the monies are gone, there is no money in the bank. Hey, what can we do? What can I do? The bank governor is asking them now, what do I do? Oh, bring us another $68 million. Kind of a stupidity that one day.
It doesn't make sense.
It should not make no logical sense. It's so sad. It's so pathetic. Do you papa me pump me people them? If you like salon, do you do the right thing, man? You get the opportunity now. Not sit by. Be part of the National Grand Coalition. Any way day. If you don't know how to join the NGC, send WhatsApp message to +1 908 759 4332. +1 908 759 4332. Send a message to WhatsApp message to that number. I will show you where to go to be part of the NGC, so we can fix Sierra Leone and kick out the buffoons that are messing up our economy. So let's come again to the second area. How do you encourage the market women? These market women that are sustaining our economy. These market women that are running the bread and butter issues of our economy, which this government has failed, continues to fail from the day they stepped foot into power 10 years ago. They lift subsidies on fuel, lifted subsidies on fuel, lifted subsidies on stuff, all because they want to amass money that they can use for themselves. Because if they're amassing that money to invest in the people, that will have resulted in production of goods and services. When they talked about stimulus, they said, and let them send stimulus package because of the COVID-19. I write an article, for when I will not read it. I wrote an article, 2 articles, advising the central bank and exactly what to do as an opportunity for us to transform our economy. They released over 500 billion. And most of that money went back to the same importers. Our poor Sierra Leonean market women that are growing basic agricultural products, selling little wares, buying and selling stuff, they were excluded from the stimulus.
So they didn't get nothing.
It's later on, I'm sure after they read my article, that's when they started saying, oh, we're going to give $1,100,000 loan to those market women. So instead of that, in fact, that's another point. Instead of doing it in the interest of the economy, they politicize it. They were giving it to only people that are affiliated to their party. So people that are not, majority of whom were not doing business at all. But because you are affiliated to their party, they're giving you $100 as stimulus package.
What is the likelihood that they will pay back that?
No, it's not about them paying. This is about satisfying them as political party. So they tell World Bank and IMF that we've given us stimulus to poor people. Is that the kind of political party you want to have in your country? I'm talking to those of you that are supporting SLPP, this Paupanista government. Is that the type of government you want to continue to have over your people? Don't you sorry for your mother in the Kalaum village, in Pujaum village, in Kenima village, in Bont village? Don't you sorry for your uncles, the suffering they've gone through? Don't you sorry for your people in Freetown? Can't you sorry for your brothers and your sisters? You're supporting a corrupt element people that are destroying our economy, and you are going there, feeding them with money, dancing for them. What are you doing? What is your moral obligation to Sierra Leone? You have an opportunity. Join the National Grand Coalition. Join the National Grand Coalition. Join us so that together we'll save the soul of our economy, the soul of our people. Our people are suffering on things that are solvable. So let me tell you how you can solve that.
Before you go there, somebody's saying if you can take this to universities.
Of course.
And talk to...
Of course. If they invite me in any university to go give a public lecture on the economy of Sierra Leone and how to fix it, I'm welcome. I will go there and do it. Now let's continue how to solve it.
Third solution.
Yes. So when I wrote an article to the central bank, I wrote an article for the central bank, addressing it to the central bank. I said, this is an opportunity. I said, what you can do with this stimulus package. This is an opportunity to encourage people to pump them into the banking sector. You give out these loans to microfinance businesses. You understand? At free interest rate to the microfinance interests, and give the microfinances businesses the responsibility to give out these loans to the small petty traders. But on the condition that the person receiving the loan opens a bank account. And on the condition that they reserve 10% of their money into the bank as on a reduced interest rate. So in other words, if they are to pay 15% interest rate, we will now reduce it to 5% interest rate, because we are forcing them to put 10% of the money into the bank. You see the logic? So what will that do? If you go to, we have market women in Kinjimi, in Kenima, in Bo, in Kono, in so many areas. You tell these market women, come, we have this microfinance. We want to give you loan, 5 million, 10 million, 3 million, 5 million. All you have to do, go apply for a bank account. We will come, they say, look, we can do it for you. You come to the microfinance agency, they go online, take the woman's ID card, get all the details, you understand? Open a bank account for the woman, and then you microfinance transfer the money into the woman's account. So you now have a bank account, go to the bank, they give you your bank slip. That market woman that has never been in a bank in her life now will have a bank account because government is giving her a loan of 5 million Leones at a very low interest rate. That woman will be so happy. And the moment that woman has, take out that fright, because some of them, they are just afraid to go to the bank because they have no clue. They don't know who they deal with. Maybe the person will cheat them. So if you have a system in place that assists them, that woman will have a bank account. Believe me, that woman will always have a bank account. They will never close that bank account again. The only political party that will be able to do that, to help our market women in the market, to help our people in the villages, to help our farmers, is the National Grand Coalition. There is no two about it. 60 years of failure. It's only a fool that will do the same thing for 60 years and expect a different result.
I was going to ask, remember back in the days, I don't know if we still have it, treasury bills.
Yeah, treasury bills. In fact, I'm glad you mentioned that. The issue of treasury bills, it has its plus and minuses. It has its plus and minuses. It's a very dangerous method of monetary policy. It can also be good for the economy. Let me explain how that works. Are you with me? Mm-hmm. Good. As I said, the banks can only give out loans if they have enough cash available. They have enough reserve, right? Mm-hmm. Now, if people wants to come take a loan from the bank, I've already explained the different types of costs that they have to face, that the people have to face. You understand? So the banks will only give out loans if you have more people deposited into the bank, right? Mm-hmm. Now, when the central bank want to increase money supply in the economy, they have different tools. One of the tools is the sale of treasury bills or purchase of treasury bills. Either they sell or buy. Okay? Now, in most cases, especially in the case of Sierra Leone, they sell treasury bills to take loan from the people. Yeah. Remember I mentioned when the central bank, the bank like the Minister of Finance, when they collect all their taxes, they bring money to the bank, right? Mm-hmm. When they want to pay salary, they take money from the bank, right? When the foreign reserve BAP, when you get donation loan from different countries, they bring it to the central bank, right? When they want to take it, they take it back, right? Now, what if that money that they put in the bank runs out?
So they cannot buy back the treasury.
They cannot pay salary. They cannot do anything. So you know what the central bank does? They go to the central banks. They have two options. Option number one, print more money. To print more money, you need to have dollars because you have to send it out. That takes a long time and so on and so forth. So they always default to selling, buying, selling treasury bills. So what does that do? They sell the treasury bills to the public and to businesses. Now listen carefully. To sell the treasury bills, you have to make sure the interest rate is so high to attract people to see reason to buy the treasury bill. So when you do that, you drain the banks of money. You starve the banks of money. You make it hard for people to come to the banks for loans. So the banks do not have any way of making money because all the money goes to the central bank, to the government. People going to buy treasury bills. You understand? So those people that has extra money, they now go to the bank and buy government treasury bills. And that's what the government use and spend fiti-fata. So that means part of the problem we have with the economy is the frivolous spending of the central government. Because they spend frivolously, the tax revenue is not enough to pay our debts. They have to go take loan from the public that hits our economy, increase interest rate, starve the banks, the economy drops. The only way you can change that, fellow Sierra Leoneans, I want you to listen to this carefully. the only way you can have an effective, robust, effective, nationalistic, economist and central bank system in Sierra Leone to fix the problems of our economy is by you voting for the National Grand Coalition. That is the only option we have. There is no two way about it. No amount of prayers, no amount of magic, no amount of dancing, no amount of party color, no amount of tribal affiliation will solve that problem until you vote for the National Grand Coalition. Yes, what next? So, what is it? Mobile money efficient market money are taken care of. Even microcredits must be via mobile money. That makes it traceable and can take off risk. Yeah, that's a good point the person is talking about. Oh, that's Bojalo, he's very, very informed. Yes. So that speaks in line to what I've just talked about. When you encourage the market women to come, the petty traders and market men and women, petty traders, small businesses, carpenters, welders, farmers, you name it, and give them loan, but on the condition that they open a bank account, so that what he's saying that the payment of that loan, they should also open a mobile money account for them. So they have their phone, they can easily make the payment on the loan. That's a good point. They can also make the payment on the loan. And that is doable. You know, like they have M-Pesa in Kenya. You know, if we do not have the mechanism, the technology to make it nationwide so it can reach everywhere. And that brings us to the issue about telephone companies. I need to touch that because these are all interrelated. These are all things that affect our economy. Do you know that Sierra Leone, we pay the highest amount for every call that we make in the entire Africa?
Whoa.
Yes.
International calls.
Local calls. So I'm not talking about international call. Local calls.
Whoa.
When they did the statistics, Sierra Leone falls the first three that pays the highest. And I will explain why and how that affects our economy. First of all, for every 12 minutes or 13 minutes you spend on the phone in Sierra Leone, it's costing you $1.
Whoa.
Every 13 minutes somebody spends on the phone talking to somebody.
It's more expensive than
It's more expensive than everywhere in the world. Every 12, 13 minutes you spend on the phone talking to somebody on the phone is costing you $1.
And all those phone companies are foreign companies.
All the phone companies are foreign companies. The only one that is a local company, the Paupa government is selling it to foreigners. Sierratel. Yes.
But Sierratel was for landlines, or they have mobile phones?
Yeah, they have landlines and mobile phones. Sierratel was one of the biggest telephone companies in the country. Yeah, but the politicians messed up Sierratel because it's government control. They put their cronies who do not know how to spell telephone, let alone run a telephone company. And they have foreign companies competing with Sierratel. They destroy Sierratel, weaken Sierratel. Now they are selling it by parts to sell it to foreigners. And then you expect, how will you sleep at night? You supporting those type of government. How will you split? Don't you have a conscience? Moral conscience? Forget about politics, forget about tribe. Just think for a minute for the interest of our poor people. How can you support a pauper government and you sleep well at night? And you're joining about jumping in America here in England. Pauper, where they are destroying the souls of our people. How can you support government like that? We have a former government for over 11 years. All they did was stealing money from the system. They abandoned the system, the economy was crashing down. Then we have another one who has no clue how to run the economy. How will you sleep at night? Go and tap into your conscience and think for a minute. Are you supporting a party in the interest of Sierra Leone? Or you're supporting it because of your tribal affiliation or because of party colors? For those of you who say, I'm supporting this party because my great-grandfather was a member of the party, guess what? They are done. They are gone. They inherited poverty. They passed on that poverty to you. They passed on that poverty to your father. Your father passed on the poverty to you. So are you saying that you're prepared to pass poverty to your own kids? Oh. It says, simply put, KKY is and always be the answer to Sierra Leone's needs and struggles. Let us leverage what God has blessed our nation with. KKY, visionary and ethical leader. You're absolutely right, my sister. I agree with you on that. Thank you.
We are down to almost 2 hours.
Yeah, wow, man, this thing has taken too long. It looks like I have to stop. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll come back some other time. Maybe this time we'll talk about I'm trying to look for the right adjective to describe it. I'm talking about our national budget. I want to find time to dissect and break it down so the people know how the politicians are using our own oil. In other words, the resources that we get from our country to fry us with it and distribute it among themselves. So you know how much money they are allocating to House of Parliament. So most of those parliamentarians are bumful parliamentarians. That's why this is time, my brothers and sisters. Go run for parliamentary seats so we have decent, experienced, dedicated, committed, nationalistic parliamentarians in the House of Parliament. You have bumful parliamentarians who do not know a bee from a bull's foot. You will never hear them say a word one day in Parliament. They are just there, concur and support, endorse and stamp. You put a budget in front of them, they have no clue of what it means. But they are ready to vote. Yay, nay, yay. Then you have the most corrupt Speaker of Parliament running the Parliament. The entire 3 branches of government were at their mercy. The 3 branches of government. You have the executive branch, corrupt. The legislative branch that's supposed to check them, corrupt. The judiciary at their mercy. The judiciary, I used to call them corrupt. But when I looked at the dynamics, the way they are at the mercy of the executive and legislature, they have no option but to be corrupt. So I don't kind of blame them for now. You understand?
Is that because of the Constitution or the layers of our system of government? Well,
the Constitution, that's another problem. With Constitution, it's better than the 1978 Constitution, one-party system that is replaced. But it's still not good enough. There are so many terrible loopholes in that Constitution. I can give you a few examples. First of all, the Constitution itself is racist. It's racist. Racist. It's a racist Constitution. You cannot have a Constitution that determines citizenship by the color of somebody's skin.
It says that on the Constitution.
Yes, it says that on the Constitution. You have to be a descendant of a Negro. Hey, bro, what kind of a stupidity that one day? The second stupidity about the Constitution, you have 3 branches of government. Then the executive branch have ultimate control of the finances. What power do you have in an agency if you don't have control of the finances? The president dictates who did this, that. And we have a system wherein the president just breaches the Constitution at will. Because of the corrupt element that we have in Parliament, they're not holding him responsible. That Constitution needs fixing. But the same corrupt people cannot fix it. Because the same way they built the Constitution, the people that wrote the Constitution, they were in line to take over the executive branch. Abdullah Conte was the vice president at the time. So they framed the Constitution giving so much power to the executive branch because he was hoping to be the president. Those are some of the flaws we have in our Constitution. But those flaws can be fixed. And the only political party that will fix that is the National Grand Coalition. My people, listen to what I'm saying. It's like a prophet preaching to you. I'm telling you the fact, the naked fact, and nothing but the truth. Just open your heart and your soul and your mind for the interest of Sierra Leone and put green, white, and blue. You will see the answer to your questions. Anyway, let me not become. That's why if you go to politics, I become a little emotional. Let's narrow it to finance. But anyway, I was talking about the telephone companies. How the bad role they play affects the economy. You understand? Now, you cannot set up a good network system for the banking sectors if you don't have the network infrastructure built to handle the traffic. We have fiber optic right down to our beaches, just like it's gone to Guinea and other countries. The government is responsible to take that line, infrastructure, and put it through the different districts and different chiefdoms. But you know why they're not doing it? Because of the hold and the grip they have, the telephone companies have over them. Because they know if fiber optic go to Kailaun, fiber optic go to whatever, somebody in Kailaun will not have to pay telephone companies to do international calls anymore. Somebody in Kalan will just rely on their WhatsApp and call their friends and enjoy talking to them without having to pay the telephone companies anymore. So because of the greed of money, they are stifling growth and development in our country, and the telephone companies are making an average of $10 to $15 million every month. When I did the calculation, $10 to $15 million every month, that's what telephone companies are making in Sierra Leone. Every 12 to 15 minutes you spend on the phone, it costs you $1.
That's insane.
I pay here less than $100 for my telephone. I have all data, all this and that. I can understand America
That's
is
a
advanced.
lot of money.
Yeah.
50, some plans are like $30 for the whole month.
Exactly. Here, I know me, it's a lot of money because of my business line and stuff like that or whatever. But most people here, you pay $10, $20, $30 a month. You have data and internet call and everything. You know how much it costs me in Sierra Leone to live there per month? $150 to $200 a month. That's what I spend on telephone. Now imagine somebody living in Sierra Leone who does not make the type of money I make, having to deal with $150 to $200 a month just to stay online and stay on calls. Because the telephone companies are embodied to carry the stipends that they give to politicians. In the past government, I know they were giving the Minister of information at that time, that stupid fool they call Mohamed Bangura. He used to have about $50,000 pocket money every month. $50,000. Now, who do you think pays for those type of expenses? It's us, you and I, that are making the calls, and those systems still continues now. Politicians siphon money from the telephone companies. The telephone companies take the cost and pass it to us. The economy is stifled because if you want to do internet network, the system is so strangulated that you cannot set up the business, you cannot set up your network, you cannot make international calls because of the high cost of the communication. So you stop your business, you strangulate the economy, and that's exactly what is happening. And the only solution is the National Grand Coalition. You put the right leadership, we're going to fix all of these problems, I'm telling you. For 60 years, we've dealt with the same people, recycling them, and they've not solved the problem, and they will never solve it. Mark my words and take it to the bank.
All right. So
anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for taking the time to listen to my lecture, I should call it, as people call it, on this issue about the Sierra Leone economy. I wish I will have time. Maybe I'll come back next week to talk on the national budget, the recent budget that was passed in the House of Parliament. And I will tell you exactly what I will do if I'm part of the NGC party to challenge the system to make sure that this nonsense that is happening with our national budget, in which politicians use from the national budget, you will see it. They dish out money to themselves, to pay themselves. You will see that this money goes to the House of Parliament, this goes to this and that. So the same money the executive branch make, like the billions and billions that goes to Madabio, billions and billions to go to the different ministries, the parliamentarians who demand their own. Since they control parliament, they dictate that. And when the money comes to parliament, it doesn't mean that every time parliamentarian get the same. The Speaker of Parliament determines who gets what vehicle. What kind of nonsense is that? What right does he have to deny a parliamentarian whose constitutional right it is to have certain stipend? I will never be in such a parliament and allow that stupid nonsense to happen. I will insult the hell out of him. I will insult the hell out of him. That illegal fraud in the House of Parliament. Because each time I stand, Mr. Illegal Speaker of Parliament, I want to say my words. And if he refuses me and denies me the opportunity to do like he did to Cherikoko, the next minute I will go out to the press conference. What he doesn't want me to say in parliament, I will say it to the nation. Call press conference and release it out. So next time he will not block me. Because he will not be able to stop me from saying it. Because they allow these guys to do things at will as if they own the country. Huh? Our forefathers are the ones that established that nation. We're not going to allow any fool to come and run it down or continue to run it down. We are sitting down. We didn't want to go into politics because we didn't want to be into politics. We said we're going to business. But this time we are putting our foot down. We're going to inherit and resuscitate the legacies of our forefathers. I don't allow fools to run us down. Anyway, that's enough with my ranting. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening. This is Jesmed F Suma.